we're just going to go through the 3 methods that we've talked about for solving quadratics. We just did a solving by square rooting. You know that you can solve by square rooting when there is no x term. So b is 0 when there is no x. There's an x squared, but there's no x all by itself. So how do you do it? You first get whatever is being squared all by itself. So we had x squared equals 12. And then you just take the square root of both sides. 12 has a perfect square factor, 4 and 3, so it becomes positive negative 2 root 3. That's it. So that's how you solve by square rooting. Just check that I don't have an x term, and then I go from there. The next way was to solve by factoring. And you can only solve by factoring if it's a factorable trinomial. Some of them aren't. So you might have, I don't know, something like this. So I cannot do square rooting here because I have an x term. So then I just check. Okay, a is 1. So are there factors of negative 3 that have to be 2? If there are, I can factor this. What are factors of negative 3 that have to be positive 2? Negative 1 and a positive 3. Right? Everybody agree?
Oh, and then you set them both.
Right. Once you have this thing factored, whatever it is, you just set each factor equal to 0. And you literally just solve each one. So one of your answers is 1. The other one is negative 3. So there are your 2 answers, in this case, 1 and negative 3. You should always be getting 2 answers. Always. Sometimes we get the same answer twice. That's okay. We'll actually talk about that a little bit more in a few minutes. But there should always be 2 answers. So I got a 1 and a negative 3. And what do these numbers mean again? What are they? Right, where if you graph this parabola, it's where it's going to cross the x-axis. So it crosses in these 2 places. This one, that's still 2 answers. One's at positive 2 root 3 and one's at negative 2 root 3. So it's going to cross the x-axis in those 2 locations. Okay? And then the third way that we had learned on Friday was solve by completing the square. This is for any quadratic. But if it can be factored, why wouldn't you?
What is it called?
This way is called completing the square. So any quadratic, but when is it best?
When A is 1 and
Yes, when A is 1 and B is even. So if I have my choice, right, if I'm taking the test, I'm in the section where I can do whatever I want, I'm going to try to do them in this order. If I can square root it, I'm going to square root it. If I can't, I'm going to try to factor it. If I can't factor it, but these are true, A is 1 and B is even, then I'm going to complete the square, because then it's not that hard. And if I can't do, if these 2 things aren't met, then I'll do quadratic formula, which you're going to learn tomorrow. Okay, so let's do an example of this one. Let's just say you had, oh, I don't know, x squared plus 12x plus 18. So, just really quickly, are there factors of 18 that add up to be 12?
6. No.
No, there aren't any. So I can't factor this one. So, but this would be a great one to do completing the square with. If I could factor it, I'm going to factor it because it's going to save me so much time.
Please pardon the interruption. At this time, could we have all members of the junior class head to the auditorium? You're going to be seated in the lower part of the auditorium. All members of the junior class. Thank you.
So, remember what step 1 is? I have to move C to the other side. So I just move that 18 over. Your next step is to, you tell me. half being squared. So that magic number this time would be 36. So let's add 36 to both sides. Negative 18 and 36 is, you always add. Yep. Negative 18 and 36 is 18. On this side, I'm just going to factor. So what are factors of 36? I add to 12. 6 and 6, they're always going to be the same, so we write it as the factor squared. And then I square root both sides. So I have x plus 6. 18 does have a perfect square factor. What is it? Right, so I split it up into 9 and 2. So I really get out positive and negative 3 root 2. And then I'm almost done. Minus 6 from both sides. And you're going to stick it. So my final answer, negative 6 plus minus 3 root 2. Done. Does that make sense? Emma, where'd I lose you?
No, I just think I just
All right.
the factoring is easy one.
Mm-hmm. Okay.